Hello, this is Kari Fell. Welcome to my studio. Previously, I released a video where I dyed these 3 warps. It's entitled Dyeing and Weaving with New to Me Colors, Terracotta, Avocado, and Golden Pear. There's a link to that video in the iCard up in the top corner. I wove up the bottom warp that you see here, and I had planned to put the top 2 warps in my store. But there's been a change of plans. I've decided that I want to weave up this wonderful Merino Tencel myself, after all. And something this wonderful feeling needs a beautiful weft. So I have a skein of Shibui knits. It's a lace weight, 60% fine merino and 40% mulberry silk. And I'm going to kettle dye this the pear color. I think it will come out a little deeper than the warp, which is great. A deeper colored weft always I think makes a beautiful warp look better. So because it's merino and silk, all of it will take the dye. So I'm going to set up the pot, drop this whole skein in it, and I'll have a beautiful weft to go with my beautiful warp. So this is a pot of acidic water. It's water left over from the last dye project. And this is the pear stock. I was thinking 2 tablespoons. Goes in green. Just doing some mental calculations to decide whether to add more. Think about how much color I had in those other warps. And I do want it to be a deep color. I'm going to add 1 more. So 3 tablespoons of stock, which is a pretty strong color, I think. Okay, the skein is undone. It has a couple of ties on it. That's the way it came. That should be enough with the loop. And this is still cold, but this is also dry. So if I drop it in now, I think I'm going to get some of that uneven color. I want it to be a bit of sort of a tonal, so not the same all the way through. And because it's going in dry, that's what's going to happen, I think. The cold water will help the color flow through, but the fact that it's dry will make it take color at an uneven balance. If I had soaked it ahead of time, it would have entered the dye bath easily, slipped right under the water, but then the dye would have probably hit all of the skein at the same time. And I don't want that to happen. So this is slowly going to go under and take the dye differently in each part. That's the plan. Hopefully my thinking's correct. I left the pot to steam and bubble a bit for about 20 minutes. Then I turned it off and just let it sit to cool down in the pot. It looks like it absorbed all the color. And I've got a beautiful pear colored yarn. The camera and real life look completely different. The camera looks very limey colored. In real life it's closer to a mustard, I would say. It looks beautiful. So it's still hot, yeah. So I'm gonna let it cool down in the pot before washing it out and hanging it to dry. So here I am on my big loom. It's a 45-inch Leclerc counterbalance Myra or harnesses. I've threaded the warp from the front and through the reed. I designed the striping in the reed, and then I threaded it through the heddles. Because this is a short warp, I'm not sure if I will get the length that I desire if I tie directly onto the beam here. So what I'm doing is I've left the previous warp wastage on, and I am tying on each of the new warp threads onto the old one. So this gives me a dummy warp, so it gives me some extra length and allows the new dyed warp to move further along the path and reduces wastage. That's the plan anyways. Yes, this method is slow and tedious, but I honestly don't mind it. This is slow cloth. I'm not a production weaver. I've come to realize that. I enjoy the slow, methodical process. I end up with one-of-a-kind pieces that have a lot of work and designing and thought into them. And yeah, it's not a production line, that's for sure. That said, if this scarf is successful, I will leave the threading and I will tie on another even longer warp onto this, and I'll be able to create multiple scarves on this threading and have more items from my shop. So we're at the front of the loom. I lashed on, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I lashed on and have the warp separated out with some, there's some junk yarn at the beginning, so it's nicely spread out, and I'm getting ready to start weaving. I wound the skein of golden pear that I dyed earlier onto a bobbin. I love how you can see the slight variation in the color. My camera makes it look very green. It's actually much more golden rather than green, but yeah, so it's ready to start weaving. I have my draft pinned up here so I can look at it. It's not too difficult. Looks like a pretty easy treadling sequence. And if there's any weavers out there, so I switched it so that I am lowering one harness and not three. So I did the attach the opposite of what is shown in the tie up there. This is a simple spot Bronson, and I haven't tried anything quite like this before, so this should be fun. Same treadling all the way through. As you can see, I'm not a very fast weaver at all. I watch each pass very carefully, making sure my selvages are good and that I'm setting the thread properly on each pass. Let's speed this up. Here's the project on the loom. I have over 6 feet woven right now. Oh, isn't that pattern interesting? See, it's subtle. You don't see the pattern yet. From above, you see the color order, which turned out really nicely. I'm enjoying that. But down here, you can start to see that diagonal pattern of the floats, which is the spot bronson. I'll pull together a little bit in the wet finishing, so that's cool. And underneath, it's quite clear too. There's the weft floats on the underside, and on the top we have the warp floats. It's weaving up very quickly, and I'm enjoying it. It's a nice, easy rhythm. Not a difficult treadling. One shuttle. Yep, I like this project. I think I may dye a much longer warp and make a series of these in a different color. And here is the finished scarf. It has turned out beautifully. You can see the shine from the Tencel in the blend. The weft has been the perfect complement, color-wise and fiber-wise. On this side we can see the little horizontal floats. That's the weft floats, and on the other side we have the warp floats. The drape is wonderful. It's soft, it's warm, it's a fairly thick fabric, yet it just sort of flows and drapes wonderfully. It's going to be warm. It has the wool in it, the merino. The color changes down the length of the warp are gorgeous. I love how the terracotta fades in and out. And the golden pear weft just pulls it all together beautifully. This is not my last spot bronson. I'll definitely be weaving more of this. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can also leave comments or questions below, and I answer all of them. This scarf and others are in my online shop. The link to that, as well as my website and my Patreon, are in the description below. Thank you for watching.